Tracy Timm, and you are watching the Nth Degree TV, the place to be to take your career from stuck to unstoppable. That's right, career clarity is coming your way, so I hope that you are ready. This week on the blog, we talked about a transformative conversation I had in a very unexpected place, the middle of the Indian Ocean. I was there on semester at sea, and it was there that I met Professor Bill von Hippel, a fellow Yalie and a fellow psychology nerd, who would go on to give me some of the best advice I've ever received in my entire life. This piece of advice I call the bus stop method. So, with this video, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into the two ways that you can use this particular method to empower you to take the necessary risks required to build a lifelong, meaningful career. Do you want that? I hope so, because here we go. In case you missed the blog post, here's a quick primer on the bus stop method. Imagine yourself at a bus stop. It's very likely that you're at this bus stop for one specific purpose, to get to the place that you want to go faster than walking. Maybe this place is far away, or maybe you just thought that the bus would be more convenient. Either way, you're at the bus stop waiting for something, in this case, the bus. Now, imagine you're still at the bus stop and you've been waiting for about 15 minutes. How do you feel? A little antsy, a little annoyed, a little impatient, maybe even a little worried. But most of all, what else are you thinking? You're probably scrolling through all of the different options to get yourself to your particular destination. You might be weighing the merits of spending money on a taxi or an Uber, or you might be considering sucking it up and walking. Or in the most extreme cases, you could be questioning whether or not you really want to go to this place after all. This proverbial bus stop is exactly how I want you to look at your career right now. Whatever job or career goals you have right now are exactly like a bus stop. You're there because of the promise that if you stay there long enough, you'll get to where you want to go. It's that simple. Now, there are two ways that you can use this bus stop analogy to your advantage. The first is to use the bus stop as an escape clause for risky career moves. And the second is to use the bus stop to reevaluate your career goals. So let's break those two down so you can empower your career and move on to the next level without having to pay an exorbitant career Uber rate or mindlessly waiting to be delivered to your final career destination. First, let's talk about the escape clause routine. When I was talking with Professor von Hippel on the ship, this was his very first example. My biggest concern was whether or not to take the risk of looking for something I really loved, or to take the safer, more traditional, and honestly, saner route of getting a full-time job as soon as I returned home, regardless of the field or the industry it was in. So after a rather lengthy discussion of the psychology of regrets, which we've covered in other videos, he started talking to me about inertia. Yes, inertia. Now, inertia is the resistance of any physical object to any change in its state of motion. This includes the object's speed, direction, or even a state of rest. Have you ever heard the phrase, an object in motion tends to stay in motion? Then you've heard about inertia. Generally speaking, the concept of inertia is what we use to explain the need for seatbelts in cars, or the reason a ball will continue to roll down a hill unless friction stops it. However, this concept can also be applied to human behavior. Have you ever been in a relationship a little too long just because it was comfortable? Have you ever chosen to remain on the couch instead of getting up and going to the gym? And have you ever had a job that you stayed in that was crappy because you were nervous that you wouldn't find anything better? All of these are great examples of inertia applied to human behavior. In order to avoid these types of natural but often not so useful behaviors, we have to set other constraints on ourselves that will produce different behavioral outcomes. Insert the bus stop method. So what Professor von Hippel was saying, accurately predicting rather, was that the reason I was afraid to take any risk in my career was because I was uncertain of the outcome. Specifically, I was worried that I would spend my entire career trying to make my dreams happen, only to reach the end of my life destitute and alone. Pretty sad picture, right? But instead, he suggested that I use the bus stop method as an escape clause or a stop loss for my experimentation. Rather than go into my quote-unquote risky direction thinking it was a lifelong sentence, I should give myself a deadline. I would wait for the bus, in this case, work towards my ideal career for a certain amount of time, say 5 years, and then be comfortable walking away. I thought this method was brilliant. By giving myself a deadline for specific outcomes and progress towards my goal, I freed my mind to work exclusively on the goal rather than constantly checking in on my progress or questioning my decision all the time. When I began my business, I gave myself exactly 2 years to really figure out the nuts and bolts of making enough money doing what I love to do that I could feed myself and pay my bills. If in 2 years I was incapable of these 2 basic measures of personal success, then I had an agreement with myself that I would walk away from the bus stop and I would get a full-time job. This method gave me permission to go all in on a dream that I had and removed a lot of the fear and ambiguity from what would be a really terrifying situation. So, how can you apply this to yourself? What risk are you wanting to take in your career? Or what goal are you wishing to achieve professionally? Can you give yourself a timeline, maybe in the matter of months or years, in which to test out this idea? It doesn't have to be forever, and it doesn't have to be immediate. Treat your current or ideal situation as a bus stop, decide how long you're willing to wait, and get started working on your future. The second application of the bus stop method is one that I discovered on my own. I venture a guess that Professor von Hippel would be very proud, and perhaps this was his intention for me to discover all along, but either way, I digress. The second way that you can use the bus stop method to your advantage is to reevaluate your career goals and reassess your current level of progress towards those goals. For many of us, the first job we got out of college, or even the 10th job we got after that one, was taken for one specific reason: the promise of future success. For me, that promise also carried one more insidious word with it: perfection. I saw my Wall Street opportunity as the route to perfect career success, as did many of my colleagues. After all, what's missing? You have money, you have influence, status, leadership, and did I mention money? And if I stretched my imagination, I was even able to use my degree. Behavioral psychology is totally applicable to finance, right? Right? Anyway, I realized recently that I was living my life and making important career decisions based on the promise of perfection. Phrases like, "this is what successful people do," and "you don't need to love your work, it's work," were tossed around casually all the time. And after a while, I really started to buy into them. But what I soon came to understand was that this method for chasing success was not sustainable for me. You know, maybe you're different. Maybe you can be miserable for 12 hours a day and still be a good daughter or friend. Maybe you can drink NyQuil before bed every night because you're so stressed and still do a good job at work the next day. And maybe you can cry yourself to sleep at night but rest in the fact that you make 6 figures. If that's you, then you're watching the wrong video. But if you want a sustainable route to success, one that makes you a better all-around person and actually gets you the results that you want, then insert the bus stop method here. Ask yourself this: have you been doing work or chasing a dream based on the promise of future perfection rather than the progress towards your personal passion? Have you been treating your current career, your current job like a bus stop, staying there longer than makes any logical sense because someone, somewhere, sometime told you that that's what successful people do? Have you been putting up with less than ideal work or non-existent passion because it feels safe and secure? Where in your current job or your current goals can you look at your situation objectively and ask yourself, have I been waiting too damn long, and might it be time for me to just start walking already? This is an opportunity to be honest with yourself. If what you're doing isn't sustainable, but you still want to feel successful, then you need to try a different approach. Making actual progress towards something that you feel passionately about will trump the promise of future perfection every single time. And there you have it. Those are the 2 ways that you can use the bus stop method to your advantage. I hope they help you take more risks and make increasingly better decisions in your future career. So now I want to hear from you. Will you use the bus stop method to give yourself safe space to take risks? Or do you need to use the bus stop method to give yourself a wake-up call and get to work? Either way, I want to hear from you. I would love to know where you are in your career journey, so please leave a comment below this video. Of course, get the discussion going over on our sweet little space on the World Wide Web as well, TracyTimm.com. Get on over there and leave a comment to get those creative juices flowing. While you're there, make sure that you hop on our email list where you can receive our free guide that's all about knowing when it's the right time for you to quit a job that you hate or even tolerate or just don't like, right? There you'll find the 8 essential questions to ask yourself to find out if it's time to take the leap and start doing something that you would really, really love to do. Did you like this video? I hope you did, because I loved it. I love bringing it to you. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out some of our other videos that you might find helpful. And that's all we have for today. Thank you again for being here. Remember, now is your time, and with a little bit of work and a little bit of help, I promise that we can take your career from stuck to unstoppable. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next episode of the Nth Degree TV. After a rather lengthy discussion of the psychology of regrets, which we've colored in other videos. Whoopsies. Screwed that one up.